Last week, we headed to Louisiana over spring break. Having already seen 100 species of birds in this calendar year in Minnesota, we had a lofty goal of seeing 100 more new species on this trip. Before we ever got out of the state, we made a quick stop at the Armstrong wetland near Owatonna. This would be our third attempt of trying to photograph short-eared owls hunting. Immediately, we spotted an owl flying in the distance. These owls roost in the ground, and they can pop out of the grass at any point. They usually hunt in the last hour before dark, but they don't like wind, which put a damper on our last two visits. They make long passes low over the grass looking for mice and voles, and they have long wings, so they're easy to track once you see them. However, it's very challenging to get someone else to see one based on verbal directions, especially with a camera lens, because they blend in well and they are always moving. These owls live in colonies. We've been told there are 6 in this wetland. We were able to witness several hunting. They would occasionally perch on small cattails or sticks, but they spent most of their time flying low. Several times they would dive to the ground and appear to catch something. One reason they are so entertaining to watch is they will fight with each other over a catch. Even though they live together, the males will fight with each other over nesting territory and hunting area. In the past, we witnessed one fighting with a harrier. This night, we got to watch 2 owls literally having a tug of war in the air over some large gray ball of something that was pulled from the grass. Even though he was only hanging on by one talon, this owl was able to escape with his prize. This area is private property, so you have to wait for them to make a pass near the road, and then hope they cross somewhere within a quarter mile of where your camera is set up. They don't always give you warning. We watched one owl surprise another as it shot out of the grass as he flew over. These birds are challenging to photograph, but super fun to watch. Since we still had 17 hours of driving ahead of us, we snapped a few pictures of ring-necked pheasants in the field across the way, and we started the long journey south to New Orleans. The burrowing owl and the barn owl were the only 2 remaining owls left for us to see, and both are tough to find in Minnesota. A couple of months before our trip, we noticed that a barn owl had been seen only a few miles from the hotel where we would be staying in New Orleans. This was near a wildlife refuge called Bayou Sauvage. We were very excited at the opportunity since we had never seen one in our life, so we made this our first stop. We walked the half-mile in to a shed located near railroad tracks that was described in the post, and peered in. We didn't even get time to wonder if this was the right place, when suddenly out flew an owl. I took as many photos as I could and was surprised by how large the bird was, and after looking at the photos, how dark it was. We didn't see which tree it landed in, so we started making our way over towards it, when suddenly it flew back in the direction that it came from. We waited a while, but it didn't return. I was really wishing I could have gotten a photo of the face. because the barn owl's heart-shaped face is one of its defining characteristics and coolest features. Since our hotel room wasn't ready yet, we decided to check out the Ridge Trail boardwalk across the road. We immediately spotted a tricolored heron, which used to be called the Louisiana heron. They're easy to tell by the white belly and the white patch on the back of their neck. Instead of waiting in stealth like a great blue heron, they dance around like they're in a ballet. We would get a fantastic photo of a tricolored heron the next day. We also spotted several different species of lizards on the boardwalk. Anytime you go to a coastal wetland in the southeast part of the United States, you will see the white ibis. It has to be one of the more common wading birds. We saw many on our trip. I never realized that the University of Miami Hurricanes mascot is actually Sebastian the ibis. I always thought it looked like a duck. At the end of this pier, we saw many coots, and one bird that didn't look like a duck, the sora. Even though it's the most abundant member of the rail family, I've never actually gotten a good photo of one before. It's way more likely that you will hear one than see one. When startled, they will often give out a whinny call instead of jumping up in the air like other birds. You know you're looking at a sora because its beak looks like a piece of candy corn. They are a nervous bird that will often hide in dense cover and only comes out to feed early in the morning or late at night. Apparently they are a delicacy, though I'm pretty sure it's illegal to hunt them. Although coots can be found mixed with ducks on almost any body of water in North America, they're actually more closely related to the sandhill crane than to ducks. They don't even have webbed feet. They will gather in rafts of up to 1,000 birds in the winter. One time in the Mississippi River, I was able to kill 5 coots with a single shot. They don't taste that bad if you barbecue them wrapped in bacon with a little brown sugar. Lots of wading birds in this trip. We've seen the reddish egret and 3 white egrets, the cattle, the snowy, and the great egret. The great egret is the size of a great blue heron. We have them in Minnesota. I've never seen them during breeding season, but apparently their face turns neon in color, and they get a plumage of feathers on their back. These feathers were apparently popular for hats in the late 19th century when they were almost hunted to extinction. We also seen many purple irises. 2 of my favorite things at this stop, ibises and irises. On the Mississippi River near the French Quarter, we spotted a greater scaup. They look identical to the lesser scaup, but their head is more rounded, not so peaked, and they have a little bit wider bill. So I'm going to guess this was a greater. They're often called bluebills, and they can dive up to 25 feet underwater. The next day, we headed to Oak Alley Plantation, named for these rows of 275-year-old live oaks which head towards the Mississippi River. While we were doing our tour, a red fox came running through the yard. We also spotted several warblers at this property, and I was able to take some pictures of mockingbirds, which are everywhere in the South. Minnesota is one of the few states that does not have the northern mockingbird. One bird we do have in Minnesota is the cormorant. As seen here on the Mississippi River, cormorants spend most of their day either fishing or resting. They have to be one of the world's most hated birds. Over a 4-year period on Leech Lake in Minnesota, 11,000 were killed with .22s with silencers. Their guano kills all the vegetation on the islands where they nest in large colonies, and they were also thought to be eating a lot of the walleyes. However, research has shown that they mainly eat smaller fish like the yellow perch, which might be helping the walleye population because yellow perch eat a lot of the juvenile walleyes. I wanted to capture a picture of the electric blue inside of their mouth, which shows up during breeding season. Crazy that a great egret gets lime green on its face and a cormorant gets electric blue in its mouth. While we were watching this snowy egret, we seen what we thought was a snake swimming through the water at the city park. Turns out it was a snake bird. Anhingas will often swim with just their head above the water. They do not have waterproof feathers like other birds. Their wet feathers and dense bones allow them to fully submerge themselves so that they can stab fish with their dagger-like bill. When they hop up on a branch, they will sit with outstretched wings until their feathers dry off enough for them to fly. Since it was only an hour before dark, we decided to head back to the Bayou Sauvage and try to see the barn owl from the night before. On our walk in, we seen this black racer, and it was a reminder that I didn't want to do too much off-roading in my attempt to get a better view. I attempted to be as sneaky as possible, but just like before, the owl shot right out the side of the barn before I could get a good view. These owls must be constantly on the alert, and I thought they were supposed to be nocturnal. Once again, I got a couple shots of him flying away from me, but nothing of his face. He headed towards the same trees that he had landed in the day before, so we began the process of looking for him in the trees. The barn owl has the best hearing of any animal that has ever been tested, which makes them exceptional at hunting by only sound in pitch black. Since they are so nocturnal, the only glimpse that most people ever get of them is a flash of white in their headlights. As Lucas moved forward, we thought we saw the shape of the body and maybe one eye peering out from behind a branch in a tree in thick cover. For some reason, these pictures of his right eye sticking out from behind the tree remind me of Thomas the Train. Finally, he moved slightly so that he was able to put his head through the Y in the tree and keep an eye on us. This was the first time we caught a glimpse of his heart-shaped face. He waited for the right opportunity, and then he flew away out of sight. We stuck around for about a half an hour and went back and checked his home, but he wasn't there. This ran-down shed, probably a victim of Hurricane Katrina, is where this guy had been living for the last several months. The next day we made the long trip to Grand Isle, where we seen many shorebirds and got many fantastic pictures, which will be featured in the Louisiana Trip Part 2 video coming soon. When we returned, before we went back to our hotel, we decided to make one more attempt. Maybe if we were even more sneaky, we could get a picture of him roosting in the barn. We weren't sneaky enough. We hadn't made it far around the corner when this happened.
What? Number two.
When we walked out in the near dark, we almost stepped on a 1-foot-long bullfrog. Since we knew the owl had a lady friend, we decided we would return in the morning with a new strategy. This time, I would walk around the far side of the barn, and I would be waiting as Lucas came around the front of the barn with his GoPro. Hopefully he would scare the birds towards me, and I could be ready to get a picture of them in flight with their face showing. Was not real excited about making my way through the long grass, but when I finally got to position, I gave Lucas the signal. It mostly worked. Even though the second bird veered off when he saw me, both birds flew at me long enough for me to get a face shot with them flying towards me. Barn owls mate for life. They have much higher metabolism than other owls, which means that they need to be great hunters. They have long legs and talons for this purpose. They can kill up to 4 mice a night, which is why farmers love to have them around. In the end, we got the shot we wanted, and it only took us 4 visits. What a great family vacation. To see more great shots like this yellow-crowned night heron, check out our video Louisiana Trip Part 2, coming soon.